Morgan, you were right yesterday, and I was wrong, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Okay, number one, Brady. Who was the first person to anticipate Great Britain's problems in maintaining the American colonies? Berzane. Count Berzane. Okay, that should be right in order of your notes here. Count Berzane. He's the one, he was a Frenchman. And he was the one that predicted that the British government was going to have a hard time maintaining the American colonies because he said they're starting to grow a little less dependent. And they're not going to be interested in paying for Great Britain's debts. And he was right. Okay? Elliot, give me one of the four major problems that Great Britain was forced to deal with in governing their vast empire across the world.
Future of Florida and Canada.
Future of Florida and Canada. Now, did I ask for an example of that? If I did, then you'd have to put the example, would you not? But I didn't. Future of Florida and Canada. But we know that we gained those territories as a victory in the French and Indian War in Canada and Florida, and there were native people living there after our victory, and we had a hard time governing them because obviously they were not from our country. Okay, give me the second of four major problems that Great Britain was forced to deal with, please, Delaney.
Let's see. The need for new taxes.
The need for new taxes, very good. And we could go into detail on that and say the reason they needed new taxes is because they fought 4 wars. Major European wars that got them heavily in debt. They also needed money to protect the empire that they already had conquered across the world. But I didn't ask for the examples, I just asked for the problem. What was the next problem there, Michaela?
Western lands.
Western lands. And we could go into detail and say we had problems in the Western lands because we had settlers over in the Western lands. We had Native Americans, Ottawa tribe in the Western lands. They were making some demands upon us as far as lowering prices on goods and supplying them with ammunition. And when that didn't happen, Chief Pontiac got upset, got the tribes together and had a conspiracy and destroyed all the forts on the western frontier, right? But I didn't ask for the example. Later I will start. Now, see if you can pick up the fourth, because I didn't feel like I really made it very clear. I actually made it its own subtopic, which it probably shouldn't have been, but we'll get it taken care of. So Emily, what was the fourth problem? Had a girl. Weakness of British leaders. Weakness of British leaders. And we will go into some detail on that in a minute. So very good. So can you see kind of where we're going here? This is kind of like a review. Normally I would give you a verbal review, but for this first test I'm going to give you 3 assignments, and we're going to do it this way. Okay? All right. Kristen, concerning the Western lands, give me one of the 2 reasons for Pontiac's conspiracy.
The way people were taking away the Indians' hunting grounds.
Well, that's a good guess. That upset him, but that's a very good guess, but I kind of mentioned already of why he got upset. Can you think of why he got upset? Because he wanted Britain to do what and they didn't. Remember?
No.
Keisha, how about you?
The British wouldn't meet their demands.
And what? That's what I'm looking for. Give me one of those.
They wanted Britain to lower the prices of goods being traded with them.
Very good. That was one of the reasons why we had Pontiac's conspiracy, is because the the British would not lower the price on goods that they were trading with the Indians. What was the other one, Taylor?
They wanted the British to supply them with ammunition.
And they did not. Okay? So those were the reasons we had Pontiac's conspiracy, because the Ottawa Indians wanted the British to lower prices on goods they were trading. They wanted the British to supply them with ammunition. Because they refused to do that, we had a conspiracy. Okay? Very good. Lauren, give me one reason that King George III was an ineffective leader of Great Britain. Very good. And they were called what? Just so you know. That'd be good to know. They didn't preach much, but they... Ministers. Yes, that's very good. His ministers were only interested in pleasing him, not looking out for what was in the best interest of the country. Okay? And Sheriff, what was the other reason he was an ineffective leader? He was stubborn. Very good. God, I'm feeling good about this so far. Okay? Get those down if you would. His ministers were only concerned in pleasing him, not what was best for the country, and he was stubborn. Those two things will make you pretty ineffective pretty quick. Okay, Elise, my dear. Who did Great Britain name as Prime Minister in 1763 that took measures to put the country on a solid financial foundation? George Grenville. Very good. George Grenville. Okay, Paris, my dear, give me one thing that the Proclamation of 1763 established in the Western lands.
It ordered all settlers to withdraw from the land west of the abolition.
Yeah. And what was the other one, Miss Wassam? This probably won't be right, but give it a shot. What else did the Proclamation of 1763 do besides order white settlers to move east of the Appalachians? It gave Native Americans back, or like Tristan said, their land and hunting grounds. Very good. So the second thing it did is it gave the Indians back their land and hunting grounds. Hey Madison, my dear, give me one of the four groups of colonists that were resentful toward the Proclamation of 1763.
Farmers,
Why? I don't ask why, I'm just asking now. Why were they upset?
because they had moved west because there was farmland over there, and now they have to
Move east, very good. Okay? Pete, give me another group of colonists that were resentful.
Fur traders.
Why?
Because,
Yeah, they couldn't make a living by getting furs. Okay, Morgan, give me another group that was upset. Why were they upset?
because the farmers of fur traders couldn't do anything against them.
To make profit on it, right? Very good. And Olivia, who were the last group that were upset? What type? Make sure this is one of you. Land speculators. And why? Because they had either purchased land or were going to purchase land in the western area that no longer they could make profit on. Now, I want to make a point here. This is, I'm giving you detail enough. Since I didn't ask you why, would you need to put why? No, I'll put on there, I ought to put list the four groups of colonists that were resentful toward the Proclamation of 1763 and why. Okay, since I don't put and why, you just have to put the people. So I just want you to kind of get an idea, because later I might ask and why. So we're just trying to kind of break in here a little bit. Okay? Okay, Ms. Jones. As a result of their concern about smuggling, list the 4 steps the British government took to keep smuggling under control. Give me one.
British Naval Patrol, right?
Okay, finish it up though, because that would be scant. If you saw scant on your test, that means you don't have enough. British Naval Patrol what?
They inspected the ships.
As they pulled into what?
Docks.
Colonial harbors. So now put all 3 of those together and give me the right answer.
Okay. The British Naval Patrol inspected the ships as they pulled into the colonial harbor.
Perfect. That's right, that's perfect. Okay, give me another one there, Mr. Garza.
They checked the warehouses.
For what? Yeah, they actually went and, who's they? Because I'm going to put on your test, who's they? Collins didn't check their own damn warehouses, right? But British officials or British tax collectors, okay? See, that's why I'm trying to make this point. If you put they on the test, I'd put who is they in a cautious point. British officials, British revenue collectors, British tax collectors did what again? Check warehouses, colonial warehouses. Okay, they checked their own warehouses over there. Well, they checked colonial warehouses. Okay, very good. Okay, JC, what's the next one?
The British government offered rewards for people who would tattle on other people who were smuggling goods.
Very good. And what was the last one?
They searched private homes.
Search private homes, private colonial homes. Now, see, now she made a point for me. Did I put list the ways they took care of smuggling in order? No, so you didn't have to be in order. But if I said, lists the proper sequence of the concern about smuggling and the 4 steps the British took to keep smuggling under control in sequence, then you'd have to put them in sequence. But since I didn't ask for a sequence, you wouldn't have to. Okay, so kind of pay attention to that as well. Okay, Dalton, what was the name of the law passed by Parliament that forbid the use of paper money to pay taxes levied by the British government? That's what I screwed totally up yesterday.
The Currency Act of 1764.
Right, the Currency Act of 1764. Okay, now, I want to make a point on that, and this is why we're doing that. I will never use the date to make a question true or false. Never use the date. But would the date be important on that? It would. I'm not a big date person, but if that's the name of the act, we need the date. Yep.
So if you did put the Currency Act, it would be kind of incorrect.
Well, in each, I would tell you this, that's a very good question. These are all going to be worth a certain amount of points. Each question would be worth 2, each question worth 3, each question worth 4. It would not be probably totally wrong, but you would lose a point or 2 for not having it. Yep. Unless it was worth 1 point, then you'd be done. Okay? But I'm not big on the dates. I'll never give you a true or false question or anything like that where the date makes it correct. Okay? I'm not overly into giving you a true or false question in which a number would make it correct, or unless it was a number like 1 million compared to 1 billion. Okay, that's a big difference. I wouldn't say the difference between 75 and 76. You see what I'm saying? So there'd be a big difference. Okay. All right. So you did exactly right, Dalton. Way to go. Okay. Back to you, Dalton. What was the name of the law passed by Parliament that required the colonists to provide barracks and supplies for British troops stationed in America?
The Quartering Act of 1765.
That's right, the Quartering Act of 1765. Again, would you need that date because it's a law? Yeah, I would like to have it. Very good. Okay, Taylor, my dear, give me one of the 2 goals that Parliament hoped to accomplish by passing the Sugar Act of 1764.
They wanted to raise money to come out for the tax and
That's, you're close, but there were 2 specific goals. You're telling me what the Sugar Act did, and of course they wanted to pay up the debt, but more specific, what were the 2 goals of the Sugar Act? This is a more difficult question, so I'm not upset at her at all. I mean, what is it? Look deep. We talked about it yesterday a little bit. Maybe you have it in there, you don't see it. Elise, can you think of it?
reduce taxes for the citizens.
Where?
In Great Britain.
Reduce taxes for the citizens that were in Great Britain. Don't you, I bet you have that written down in your notes, don't you, Taylor?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just didn't quite get it. It's okay. Very good, Elise, to reduce taxes or the tax burden on the citizens of Great Britain, because if the colonies are paying, they're paying less. Okay? Tristan, what was the second goal of the Sugar Act of 17?
To make the colonists trade with Britain more?
What's that?
To make the colonists trade with Britain more rather than other countries?
No? Same old thing we've talked about. Remember, Emily? They had to raise the money to pay for what? Well, not that part. To, okay, say it again. Pay for the military to do what? Protect the American colonies. Make sure you say American, because they got colonies all over the world. So the second goal of the Sugar Act of 1764 was to raise revenue to pay for the military to protect the American colonies. Okay? Very good. Now I'm going to see if Paris gets this right, I'm going to bring ice cream bars in for us on Monday. Paris gets this right. And the reason I'm doing that is because I kind of I had everybody confused on this, and I want to see if she picked it up, and I'll correct her if she didn't, but I got confidence in her. Now take your time and explain the difference between a direct tax being levied by the British Parliament and a tax levied by a colonial assembly.
Okay, so, one to a direct tax
Well, I should have, and I want you to write this in there. I should have this in there. The question should say, explain the difference between a direct tax being levied by the British Parliament and a direct tax levied by a colonial assembly. Okay, to make it clear. What's the difference between the two?
Okay, so with the direct tax going to being levied by the British Parliament, it went straight to Great Britain. However, the direct tax levied by the colonial assembly went to the colonial assembly and the state.
Or colony, not
Yeah.
state. Yeah! How about a hand for her for ice cream? Now, did you guys know that? So maybe I did clarify, but that had me confused. So we're not gonna worry about an indirect tax. You just need to know that a direct tax is a tax that goes straight to the organization that levies the tax. So, if Great Britain Parliament levies a tax like the Stamp Act, which we'll talk about, that's a direct tax that goes to where? England. Okay, if New York's Colonial Assembly levies a tax on something within that colony, where does that tax money go? To the colony. Okay, and did the colonists have trouble paying a direct tax to colonial assemblies? No, because they had say in that. And they felt like they were being taxed without representation in the direct taxes that went back to Parliament. Oh, I don't feel much better than I did yesterday. Okay, give me one example, if you would, Dane, on a license that was taxed as a result of the Stamp Act of 1765.
Legal documents,
Legal documents such as a?
a deed or a mortgage.
There you go, very good. Give me another one there, if you would, Casey.
College
College diplomas. How about another one, Olivia?
playing cards.
Playing cards. How about another one? Sage?
Advertising.
Advertisements. And one more, please, Keisha. Newspapers. Newspapers. How many are you asking for? Two. So you got to come up with two of those, okay? Now, here's another question. I feel like the J.C. Page is going to pull this one off. Why was Prime Minister George Grenville so surprised when the colonists opposed and acted so obnoxious about the Stamp Act? Why was he so surprised that they were so mad about that? You're probably wrong, but give it a shot. Come on, don't be bashful. Garza, are you dating her? No. Because I'm going to ask you maybe if you are, if you don't answer, but if you're not. You know what it is, dear? Whoever I ask next, you have to date. Come up with that answer. Come on. Go ahead. Don't be bashful, girl. I bet you got it written down.
I don't know if I do actually.
Well, damn. Where's your Stamp Act? That's quite a...
I know. But
Well, you didn't quite get that. Okay? How about it, Pete?
The British Parliament gave them like a year to rethink, like maybe any changes they want to make to it.
Or not so much changes of that. Don't get confused. That you're on the right. Gave a chance to come up with an alternative way to tax them other than that way. And so the reason he was so surprised is he's thinking, God, I gave them a whole year to come up with an alternative way to be taxed, and they never responded, so what are they so fired up about? Well, they were fired up about getting taxed. Okay? All right. Now, does everybody feel pretty confident that you have the correct answers on this deal? Because this makes you a really nice what for the test? Study guide. There you go. So put it in your 3-ring binder and keep it because we're moving on. We're going to move on. And our subtopic for today is opposition to the Stamp Act. Opposition to the Stamp Act. This starts a really important process when the colonists start to get really ticked off that's going to move us toward independence. Okay, opposition to the Stamp Act. Keep those, you're going to get 2 more of those before we're done here. You're going to say, I'm going to say, study those tonight, and we're having a test tomorrow. That's kind of how it's going to work. Well, we told you yesterday, I think, in the lecture, and by the way, thank you, Morgan, for saying I don't think you turned that on to record yesterday. You were right, I did not. Then when I don't do that, then I got to come in here and lecture to myself, which is kind of weird. It doesn't take as much time, frankly. So if you're looking for yesterday's lecture, it's going to be about 10 minutes long instead of 50 because I don't correspond with myself very well. So we just kind of go, okay? So sometimes when I get so Morgan, I'd really like it. I know I got it on today, but from this point on,
that's why
let me know.
you were confused.
Okay. All right. Well, after the Stamp Act of 1765 was passed, three different groups of people met together to decide how they were going to protest this. Okay? And those three groups of people were colonial lawyers, colonial merchants, and colonial publishers. Those three entities got together and put together a plan of how they were going to protest this Stamp Act of 1765. Again, they were made up of colonial lawyers, colonial merchants, and colonial publishers. Now, not only did those groups of people, the lawyers, the merchants, and the publishers, get together and protest, but colonial assemblies did also. Colonial assemblies. And again, those are governments within each what? Colony. They're all a little bit different. So colonial assemblies got together and also found ways to protest. Now, what do you think the colonial assembly's stand was on the Stamp Acts? Try to think about this. It's not an easy question, but what was their stand? What were they griping about? What were they stating in their meetings about the Stamp Act? It was a violation of what? What the big quote we always been using? It was what without what? It was taxation without representation. So basically what the colonial assembly said that were involved, that any tax is illegal except for those levied by representatives of all the people within their own legislators. So what they're saying is that the taxes that they're levying through the colonial legislatures that are going to the individual colonies, those are okay. But any of these taxes that the British government is levying without representation by the people of America are illegal.